Welcome to Redesigning Life. I am so excited about this episode because I have Sasha Carrion here with me, and she is a hypnotist and works with the subconscious. And if you've listened to my podcast for any time, you know how important I believe our subconscious beliefs are and how they really sort of mold our lives and what we attract and what we don't attract. So, Sasha, I'm so excited to get deep into this conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time and talking to me today.
Sabrina, I am so happy to be here with you today. I think this is absolutely awesome that you're really giving people the opportunity to understand what hypnosis in the form of hypnotherapy can do for them.
So I think when people think of hypnotists or even hypnotherapy, they think it's always some sort of show, like some magic trick. You know, when you see the hypnotist on stage and they make you bark
Mhm.
like a dog, obviously that is a part of how people do it, but it's such a very powerful tool in therapy and changing your thoughts. How did you get into this? Like, how did you? I know you've been doing it for 17 years, but how
Mhm.
did this all start for you?
By the way, the funny thing is that I totally believed that myself, and I was a total skeptic. People are always in shock when I tell them that by nature I am a doubting Thomas. But I did it, and I do this for a living because I have seen the difference in my life, and this stuff works. I
So tell
always
me, like, all of the 17 years, like, what have you seen? How have you transformed some of your clients in all of the years you've been doing this with hypnotherapy?
Oh my God, I've helped people to heal trauma, to eliminate all kinds of mental blocks that had been stopping them from achieving their goals, that had them self sabotaging themselves. I've helped people to eliminate anxiety, fears, and phobias, to boost their self confidence, to get control of their eating habits, to lose weight, to quit smoking, to stop biting nails, all manner of things. I've even helped people with physical issues. So, for example, I had a kid client who came in and he had been in a horrible accident where he had to have 4 to 5 surgeries, and he had been told that the chances of him walking again were next to nil. He came in, he was already, thinking suicidal thoughts because he was so depressed. And when I asked him, well, how can I help you? He said, I want to walk. And I told him, listen, I can't guarantee anything. But I'll tell you what, I believe in miracles. And if your mom gives us the green light, I'll start giving you suggestions to start healing. Suggestions, by the way, are the instructions that we give the mind in a hypnotic state. I hypnotized him probably about 4 to 5 times, and the months went by. Months went by, and one day his mother made an appointment for him to come in. He came in walking. Fast
So,
forward
so
to now.
so then why isn't it instant after he walked out? Why doesn't it work instantly after the session?
Because this isn't a magic bullet. When it comes to the mind, it takes conditioning. It's like everything. It takes conditioning. It isn't something, don't get me wrong, for certain things like quitting smoking, a person can quit smoking in 1 to 2 sessions, but for most things, they need a certain amount of sessions. But even so, in the grand scheme of things, what is 4 to 5 sessions? There are people that are doing traditional therapy for a decade or decades. So, no matter
Yeah.
what, this is very effective compared to other modes of therapy.
How does it work?
So, imagine that right now we are only talking to each other with 5 to 12% of the mind. That means that there's this whopping part that goes untapped. And what nobody tells you is that the core of who you are resides there in the center. And so that's where your habits, your emotions, your patterns are stored. And so you want to access this hard drive of the mind so that you can eliminate programming that isn't serving you and input programming that will. So, what we do in a therapeutic state is put you in a relaxed state so that your brain's wavelengths drop. Your mind opens up, it becomes porous, and it's able to start absorbing the suggestions. And the suggestions that we give you are based on what it is that you tell me. So, for example, let's say you came into one of my offices and we started working with you, and you were dealing with anxiety and certain ruminating thoughts because certain things had happened at work and you couldn't get past it. Well, what we will do is help you to process those emotions and what happened in a hypnotic state, and help your mind to see things in a way where you're able to let go of that and be at your best. And so,
So, yeah, but you were saying that it works in reprogramming, I guess, giving suggestions. But what if you don't know what your subconscious beliefs are? Like, let's say I'm dealing with anxiety from work, but I don't really know that's what it is. How can I, how do clients give you the information for you to then reprogram if they don't even know what's keeping them from living their best life?
oh, let me tell you that in like probably like 98% of the cases, people know what's bothering them. You know, somebody, did something or said something to them. And so people come in here because they're very much aware of the problem. That's why they come in here.
And you're saying sometimes it takes one session, sometimes it takes many.
Mhm.
When you get somebody in a relaxed state, then you give them you put in the seeds of
Right.
the reprogramming, and then they wake up and they feel different.
Well, that's the thing is when people that well, first of all, they don't actually fall asleep. So what happens is that you enter that really relaxed state. And when you're in that state, sometimes you can feel a little bit lighter, go a little bit deeper, lighter. It's like a wave. And so what you're experiencing is a relaxed state of awareness. And so at times the conscious mind takes off and it's just subconscious. And then there's other times where they totally are hearing everything. So after the session, the person opens their eyes. They're very relaxed, and in most cases, they feel at peace. And most people say that it's a very relaxing experience to where it feels like a mental massage.
Okay, and do you have then the free will during hypnosis to, if you're not accepting or agreeing with the suggestions, to say no? Because I think people also maybe fear that the hypnotherapy might give them suggestions that are dangerous. And obviously I know you wouldn't do that, but if somebody is worried about that, do you still have free will?
Oh, you always have free will. In fact, all forms of hypnosis are a form of auto hypnosis. This works because you want it to work. And before we actually go to hypnotize you, we make sure to go over exactly what you want because we need to fine tune the suggestions to you. If I were to give you a suggestion that wasn't in line with you, you know what your mind would do? It would just bounce it off and it'd say no. When you're in that state, you're very much in tune with yourself. I remember once giving a person a suggestion, and I gave her the suggestion, and much to my shock, she went like this. And I was really surprised. And after she explained to me why, I had given her the suggestion that she was going to do something at a certain hour. And it turns out that at that hour, her office didn't even open up. So that's what it was. But in every other case where I've hypnotized a person, because the suggestions are fine tuned to exactly what the person wants, we never have those issues.
And when I know that there are some people who use hypnosis to quit smoking or quit any sort of habit. And I've heard stories of like life changing. I never wanted to smoke again. It disgusted me. And then I've heard people say that they've done it and it didn't work at all. So why does it work for some people and not others?
When it doesn't work, it can be for two different reasons. Number one, the person isn't really committed to whatever it is that they want. So, for example, when people call and they want to make an appointment to quit smoking, I ask them from a 0 to 10, with 10 being the number at which you absolutely want to quit, what number are you at? If people give me like a 5 or 6, I tell them no. Work on your commitment, then come back to us, because otherwise the chances are half that it's going
It's
to work.
funny because
Um,
I when this was like, my God, 15 years ago, I paid for my mom to get hypnotized to quit smoking. And she went and she was like, "I this didn't work." And now I look and I realize she never wanted to quit smoking
No,
anyway. She
exactly.
still smokes to this day.
Exactly. And then the other thing that sometimes happens is that people find a hypnotherapist that doesn't really understand suggestibility, which is how people process information. You can't hypnotize two people the same way. So, for example, if you have an analytical mind, I have to speak to your mind a certain way so that your mind will absorb the suggestions. Otherwise, it's going to be a no go. And so there's some schools that unfortunately don't teach that stuff. But my staff and I, we've gone to the Harvard of hypnotherapy, so we are very much aware of all that important stuff.
Now, there are people who have like hypnosis, like where you could download it on the internet for like a few dollars to $10. Do those pre-recordings work?
They can. They can, but let me tell you, there is nothing like customized sessions. The more customized it is to your needs, the better. So, for example, when people come into one of my offices, their sessions are customized. I'm about to launch an app, Mind Morph, and one of the programs that I'm going to put in there is a program for helping women with eating issues and weight loss. That thing has 21 modules. And when I was explaining to my partner why it was so large, he said, "It's so unnecessary. You're being overly meticulous." I explained to him, "No, you don't understand. Eating issues and weight is a complex topic. And it's not, you can't just think, oh, just a few different audios are going to be enough for everybody. No. If we want to do it the right way, we have to be really goal focused. So, yeah, so it's very important that we absolutely hone in on exactly what you need. This way, it makes sense to you, it resonates, and that is how we're going to get your mind to absorb the suggestions.
And how, I mean, I've done so much work on the subconscious because I notice in my own life, I sometimes sabotage. I sometimes am in like the brink of like huge success and then I'll just throw a wrench into something. And I know that I have obviously some subconscious belief. And I believe at the end of the day that it all boils down to self-esteem. Like when we believe we are worthy and we deserve a relationship, a great job, a good family life, a good house, whatever the hell it is. When we really truly believe that, then those things will come to us. And this all boils down to subconscious. So how does that work? Like what in all the years you've been doing this, the 17 years, what have you noticed that is a reoccurring pattern in all of these clients of how everything, boils down to self-esteem and their belief system?
Yeah, well, one of the things I should mention first is that, a lot of times when we sabotage ourselves, it's because it's a self defense mechanism.
Can you
So,
explain that?
yes. So, to the subconscious mind, it's much more important to ensure your survival, your, so to speak, safety, than your success. So if you have experienced certain traumatic things, situations where there were instability, where it felt like the rug got pulled underneath you and whatnot, the subconscious mind will try to sabotage you because it feels safer for you to stay small, safer for you not to be seen, not to be heard. So that's why it's so important to access the subconscious mind and make those changes, because realistically, the subconscious mind will always override the conscious mind.
Yeah, I have noticed that. It's true. I was reading something the other day, like your ego really wants to keep you safe, even if safety isn't the best thing for you. It just wants familiar. So it'll keep you in that same loop over and over because you know how that story ends. But when you try to do something new, your ego's like, nope, we don't know how that story ends. So let's just keep you safe in here. Even
Mhm.
if it's an unhealthy relationship, a habit, a work situation, whatever the case may be. And that's really hard to reprogram.
And this is the thing, what nobody tells you is that the subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between a negative and a positive pattern. The moment your mind learns a pattern, it just keeps wanting to repeat it over and over again. That's why it's so important that you take control, gain access to it, and start inputting exactly what you want.
How in with your clients, do you notice that this lasts or is it temporary? The feeling of the change after these sessions.
In general, people tend to experience some amazing changes. In fact, some of my first clients will, from time to time, reach out because they need new things, and they'll mention, like, God, I remember that time you helped me with that one issue with my sweet tooth. And, it's the craziest thing. But since then, I just, I've been totally in control of my sugar intake, things like that. And so there are some things that people will nail right away. And then there's other things that there are different layers to it, and they'll need a little bit more work. But to be totally honest, all of us need to accept that self growth is a lifelong process. As long as you have breath, you should be working on yourself.
I agree. I mean, my mom makes fun of me because I'm always reading some book or going to some retreat, and she's
That's
like,
great.
when is enough enough?" And I'm like, "It's never enough," because I always uncover another layer of myself that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't need fixing, but I just realize that I want to improve. I mean, obviously I want to be the best version of myself, but in all the in all the years also you've been doing this, like what do you notice people need the most help with? Is there like one
Mm-hmm.
certain aspect of their life that you see recurring over and over?
Yes. So connecting with themselves so that they're able to trust themselves. So if you're not right with yourself, you can only go so far in life.
What do you mean like not trusting themselves? Like what does that look like?
Yeah. So, for example, trusting your intuition. Also, for example, like valuing yourself, having certain standards, the kind of standards that are going to make it so that no matter what you come through for yourself, so your relationship with yourself is a top thing that just needs to be solid in order for you to do anything and everything else. And another thing that really helps is having some kind of belief or faith.
I agree with the your relationship with yourself. What I've noticed too is if I want to start a new goal, like let's say working out and Monday, and I'm like, I'm going to start on Monday. And then Monday rolls around and I get tired and I'm like, I'm just going to do it tomorrow. I, back years ago, never thought that was a big deal. Like, who cares? Nobody knows that I was going to start on Monday except for me. And I
Mm-hmm.
realized it matters so much because
Yes.
I told myself I was going to do it on Monday and then I abandoned myself. And those little
Mm-hmm.
microaggressions against yourself build up and then you stop trusting your own self, which then you stop trusting your intuition.
That's right. It's first of all, kudos to you that you have so much awareness. That's great. And that you're not afraid of looking at your shadow. Because sometimes people don't really do the work because they don't want to see their shadow. They fear what they might find. And so kudos to you that you have been somebody who has really moved forward and you're okay seeing what you see because you understand that you'll be better off because you have that information. And this
I'm
is
sending this I'm
amazing.
sending this clip to my mom. I'm gonna send this clip to my mom and be like, see? But I mean it's true. And I have friends that don't want to have deep conversations. They don't want to see themselves that way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine too. I just realize that like your relationship with yourself is the most important relationship and that's what the self-sabotaging. But the going back to what you said about intuition, how I feel like because there's so much going on in the world right now, and I feel like people's anxiety is higher than it's ever been because of so much noise. How can you tell, how have you been able to decipher with your clients the difference between their intuition and listening and tapping into that and their anxiety and fear? Because sometimes your body will tell you not to do something because of fear,
Mm-hmm.
where that's not your intuition. So how have you noticed that you can help your clients tell the difference?
Yeah, the most important thing when it comes to me helping my clients is understanding their vision for themselves and what they want. If the fear is just a thing of the mind trying to keep them safe, then I know that I need to help them unblock it. If it's just uh, you know if it's just a thing of what's happening in the world, then honestly, what I have to do is make it so that they have a certain amount of boundaries. Don't get me wrong. I really do believe that right now we are in a time frame where we are called to take action and to stop certain things from happening in the world and make the world a better place. But we also must have some boundaries, because if you don't have boundaries and you're an empathic person, especially right now, right now is if you are an empathic person, it is a tough time to just be, because you're feeling all of this energy and there's just so much out there. But right now, we all need to exercise having a certain amount of boundaries and being able to refocus and recalibrate ourselves. Because if we can't do that, we're no good to ourselves and to the rest of the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's the putting your oxygen mask on first
Yes.
sort of thinking, and I agree. I mean, but it is difficult, and I think that if somebody's listening to this and they're thinking, okay, hypnotherapy sounds like maybe a modality that I want to try and I never have. Is there any way that they could, if they can't afford to hire someone, what are some tips that you can give someone to self, like, is there any way to do it for yourself?
So you can, in fact, I hypnotize myself all the time. But the thing is this, when you have somebody else hypnotize you, you're able to let go. And that's how the walls come down. And that's how your mind becomes porous and is able to really open up and absorb those suggestions. Otherwise, you're responsible for putting yourself in, and then you're responsible for giving yourself those suggestions. So I believe that you're not able to go as deep as you really need to, so that your mind can absorb those suggestions. That's why, if a person, for example, is not able to afford to work with me or my staff, they can do things such as find free YouTube videos. Right now, I'm in the process of launching my Mind Morph app, because I want to make sure that everybody has access to the mentalities they need, so that they can, overcome the past and make breakthroughs and be the person that they were meant to be on this earth. So, so that's my way of making it so that everybody gets access to this work.
Yeah, so I am excited about the app because you were saying that there's so, even just for eating issues, there's so many different layers to it. But isn't that the case with any bad habit? Like even online shopping, or overworking, or drinking, or smoking, or gambling, or porn, or fill in the blank. Don't you feel like everyone has their own reason why they participate in that sort of behavior?
Totally. But let me tell you, when it comes to eating and weight loss, it's the most complex out of all of them. Out of all of them.
Why
And
is
trust
that?
me, it's just because it's just tied to habits. It's tied to the patterns. It's tied to emotional eating, all of these things. And there's something about eating where it is the crutch for so
Yeah.
many, especially women. And so that's why for that one, it's complex, and yeah, it just takes a little more work than quitting smoking. People quit smoking in one single session all the time, but it's different because you can put that cigarette down and never ever have to pick it up. You'll
You
never
have to
be able
eat.
to stop eating,
Right,
you know.
right, you
And so
have to eat.
yeah,
So it's
exactly.
in your face at least 3 times a day how you're gonna, how you're gonna approach that. So I can
Exactly.
understand that. What you were saying earlier, that you always have the ability to override a suggestion, but when I started, when I was asking you, like, most people think of hypnotists as these, like, magicians on stage. But I've seen people on stage, like, bark like a dog and, you
Mhm.
know, be crazy. Why were they able to do that when why didn't those people override acting silly?
Yeah, well, honestly, because they wanted to do it. You see, stage show hypnosis is totally different from hypnotherapy,
How?
completely different.
How?
Because when you go to Vegas, let's say you go to Vegas and you put your hand up and you say, "I want to be a volunteer," you're gonna notice. Pay attention. That you'll notice that they'll go ahead and bring up maybe 20 people up there, a big group of people, and then they will have them doing different things. And then little by little, they will start to weed people out. A little here, a little there. And next thing you know, you've got like 6 people, then you're down to like 4. And then he focuses on the somnambulists that are there. Somnambulists are the people that are by nature are just more suggestible because they're able to process information both directly as well as by analyzing whatever is coming their way, whatever message units are coming their way. So they are the ideal people for stage show hypnosis. And a part of them is willing to do that stuff. That's the only reason they do it. I have gone to Vegas and even interviewed some of the top hypnotists there for my YouTube channel. And let me tell you that when I go to the shows and I put my hand up and I get on stage, I am one of the first people to get kicked off the stage because I have an analytical mind and there's no way I'm going to do anything stupid on there, you know? It's not going to happen. That's not me. And
Right.
so that's the reason why stage show hypnosis looks a certain way. Now, hypnotherapy is different because we see it as a very serious modality, something that it can change lives, and so it's really important. There's no goofing off or silliness. No, it's you coming in and telling me what you want, how I can help you, and me making sure that I fine tune to exactly what you need. And so it's completely different.
I've also heard of people saying that they were in hypnotherapy and memories came flooding out of them from their childhood that they weren't aware of. Have you ever seen that happen?
Sometimes people will recall certain things, especially if you're doing like a past life regression or regression to a person's younger age, a younger age in this life, an earlier age in this life. But in most cases, that's not the case. In most cases, we're just focused on whatever it is that the person wants to accomplish. But in sessions where people request past lives or they need to remember something from their childhood, then of course they will definitely recall certain things.
And you've seen people tap into that.
Yes, so I'll give you a really good example. Years ago, I had a woman come in and she told me, there's this guy at work that I have this connection with. And sometimes, when things aren't going well with my husband, sometimes I think, maybe, maybe I should leave my husband for this guy. And so she said, I want to know because I believe that I somehow know him, maybe from a past life. And I want to know what the connection is. So I hypnotized her. And it turned out that that guy who she worked with had been her husband in a previous life.
Stop.
And yes,
Did
but
she
it
leave her
turned out
husband?
that he had abandoned her.
Wow.
Yes. So when she opened her eyes, she said, I'm not going to leave my husband for that guy. And she walked out, just just knowing exactly what she needed to know.
I remember when I was in high school, one of my friend's mom went to hypnotherapy, and she, in one of the sessions, recalled a lot of abuse in her life.
Mm.
And have you seen people do that where like it kind of it unravels an entire other bag of tricks?
No, but what's interesting is that something similar happens a lot of times when people get massages because memory is also an energy is stored in the body as well. Where somebody will, be getting a massage and all of a sudden they'll remember, "Ah, my stepbrother. He once touched me when I was a kid." Things like that. But usually, no, we don't experience things like that.
In hypnotherapy?
But it is possible, of course it is. And that's the thing is usually the mind will will not show you anything that it doesn't believe that you can't deal with. So if it shows you something, it clearly believes that now is the time. In fact, that's the reason why a lot of times things don't come up until things calm down. And so a lot of times people will say, everything had been going really well, and all of a sudden I'm dealing with this stuff. And well, you're dealing with it because your mind says, okay, you've been able to breathe, and you're now able to really deal with these things. Now is the time.
Is there anyone that you think hypnotherapy will not work for?
It'll work for everybody if, the caveat is if, they are on board with it, because honestly, this only works because you want it to work. It will not work if you resist. If you are of the mindset and attitude that this is, you know, you against me or anything like that, then it won't work.
Yeah, so you have to be anybody who's resistant, but that's the case with any modality, right? Even like talk
Exactly.
therapy, if you're there and you're just miserable and you don't want to be there, no suggestion the therapist is going to make is going to change your life.
Exactly. And especially with hypnotherapy, because we're talking about the mind, the subconscious mind, and its main job is to protect you.
How does it work with your nervous system?
Yeah, so at my office, we do a technique that nobody else does, which is my neurosomatic reconditioning technique. And we integrate it into our hypnotherapy sessions when people opt for doing that. And the goal is to null any anxious energy as well as any anxiety that's in your nervous system. And then after that, to start conditioning in the positive. And so that's something that we do at my office, because I really believe that healing needs to be holistic. It isn't just a mind thing. It isn't just a body thing. It's a whole thing. And I'll give you an example. It isn't even just a logical mind thing. When you think of the mind, it's also a spiritual thing.
But so how does it work? Your technique.
Yeah, so in the first phase, after we do the discovery, where we go over all of your goals, we create that list of suggestions. One of the things that we do is we do a massage on your spinal cord while focusing on the issues that you want to eliminate. So the goal in that phase is to null the negative, to desensitize you to where it no longer triggers you. Because a lot of times, especially if you've experienced a lot of trauma, instability, shock, what happens is that you're always on edge. You're always in fight or flight mode. You're always thinking, when is the other shoe going to drop? So our goal is to start nulling that energy, on the physical level, at the nervous system level. And then after we hypnotize you, we also start coding in with the massager the positive. So
It's
the whole
like a hand massager?
Yes, that's right. And so it's this whole thing that we integrate into the hypnotherapy sessions, so that, the healing is really on a dual level, on the mental as well as the physical. And like I said before, I really do believe that when we go to heal the mind, we're not just healing just the logical mind, but also the spiritual.
Well, it's almost like it's the mind, it's the body and the spirit.
That's right. That's right.
Have you seen also in lately, like, do you see a trend of people sort of dealing with the same issue?
So let me tell you, there are times when there is just something in the air and everybody's coming in for the same stuff. It is the weirdest thing, but it really goes to show you how we are all interconnected. And so there have been different time frames where people are coming in for insomnia. There are time frames where, people are constantly coming in for anxiety, or to get past sexual abuse that they experienced as kids. So yes, it happens.
So what's happening now in the world?
Right now is a lot of anxiety. A
Yeah.
lot of anxiety, a lot of insecurity, a lot of people feeling unstable, especially after COVID. For a lot of people, it created this feeling of, oh my God, they never anticipated COVID happening. For a lot of people, there was a lot of financial instability. Then there was the shock of not knowing what that bug was, of going into grocery stores and finding them empty. So that really messed with a lot of people. In fact, a lot of times I see people that they are continuing to wear masks even though it's not even necessary, because they're still functioning from a place of fear. And I really do believe that there's this collective trauma that happened during that time frame, and that a lot of people don't realize how much that time frame impacted them. A lot of people lost their homes, especially like in LA. People
Yeah.
like who have been impacted, for example, also even by the strikes. All of these things that have been happening back to back. inhumanity that is happening in the world. All of that is causing people to think, what is going on here?
Yes.
Why are we in so much darkness? And for those people, one of the things that I say is that more than ever, we need to make sure that our light is shining bright. And of course, that we do everything we can to help others, and that we also just hold that space for healing and for collective healing and growth.
Sasha, thank you. I really want you to, I would love to try hypnotherapy with you
Yes.
one day. So hopefully we could do it. Maybe I'll even record it and so I could show everyone how the process works. But thank you so much for your time. And if anyone's
Thank
listening,
you.
if you're driving, you could look at it later. But in the show notes, I will put how to get in touch with Sasha on Instagram, her website, and hopefully your app. When do you think your app will come out?
God willingly, in about 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh, that's great. Okay, good. Well,
Yes.
so keep looking. I'll put all the information in the show notes. Thank you so much, Sasha.
Thank you.